Just me, a place to be me, where you get to experience life. 'Cause life is a journey, not a guided tour. If you want the rainbow, you have to go through the rain. Welcome back, guys. Welcome back, the month of May, and we have a new topic this month. It is entitled Femininity, Masculinity, and Identity. So, this month, we're going to be looking at understanding the societal constructs of femininity and masculinity and understanding how mental health and authentic self expression can be helpful as we grow into ourselves. This series is going to offer meaningful exploration of how both femininity and masculinity influence mental health and hopefully provide everyone with some insights and tools on how to truly live their authentic lives no matter how they choose to identify. So, and today we have Miss Aaliyah Greenidge, who is a licensed clinical social worker at Journeys Counseling Center. And she is going to help us with unpacking how societal constructs of femininity impact our mental health and how we can embrace traits like transparency and vulnerability in order to support a source of strength. So let's start with the basics first. How do we personally define femininity? What does that look like? Um, what does that look like? Yeah, Aaliyah, how would you define feminism, femininity?
First off, thank you for having me. When I look at what being feminine is, I think of qualities of being a female or a woman. What that looks like, I haven't really dove into, which I
Mhm.
was just thinking about. Like I've never really um sat there and asked myself that question. What does being feminine, what does that look like to others? Because me just being a woman, it's just like I'm I just think I'm already feminine no matter how I wake up or what I have on. I think I'm just feminine. So that was a question, that was in a way a tough question, but kind of easy for me.
Mhm.
So yeah.
Yeah, I can kind of see where you come from because in hearing your response, it's like you gather what femininity should like based on like your culture or how you was raised or what you was told. We look at being feminine as being soft, you very emotional creatures, very talkative, but you have men like that too. But to say when I wake up, regardless of what y'all might think I am or how y'all look at me, I know who I am. So I know I'm feminine. So I could be hard today and soft tomorrow and still be
Hmm.
feminine all in one,
Hmm.
all in one suite. So I can see how it can be a hard question and easy or easy question but hard to answer.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think that just overall, the general concept of femininity is just the set of attributes, behaviors, and roles that are traditionally associated with being a female or of woman identity, but that can look different across cultures, across time periods, because the same thing that we identify as feminine when my parents were growing up or their grandparents were growing up in the baby boomer generation or the millennial generation is going to look completely different. It's so the concept of feminism has changed over generations and across different cultures and even within different households. Um, and so that's kind of the reason why we're even talking about it to this day is because as we continue to grow as a society, we're looking as human beings of changing some of those narratives of what we have historically been taught feminism to be, masculinity to be, and kind of creating our own concept of self identity with merging two of those concepts together to just being accepting who we are. Um, Aaliyah, I know that you work with youth, and when you work with youth, have you ever had clients or families come in who have struggled with that concept of identity? Um, And if so, how do you go about having those conversations?
Yes, I had actually had a client that struggled with um identity, um, and how I helped that individual was off giving them information, excuse me, giving them information about why some people may not accept the way you see yourself or how you present yourself or stuff like that. So I, like you said, mentioned before, different time periods
Mhm.
that would affect how an individual may see you as feminine or however they see you, because in that time period it might have been wrong, or it was just a gender role. It was how this is how you had to do it, and it wasn't no other way. So for me, kids nowadays, I love to say the 2000 kids are different. so just helping them understand that even how I may think is not, it's nothing against what your experience or how you feel or how you perceive yourself. It's just what we grew up on and what was taught to us. And so I try to go at it like that, and also being aware that times are different.
Mhm.
Things are acceptable now. So you have to be comfortable with who you are and take it day by day.
And sometimes that can be challenging because of the misconceptions that we have around what it means to be feminine. Um, I know that some of the misconceptions around tapping into your femininity is just that being feminine is more passive or submissive, or can be looked at as weak or fragile. Um,
Mhm.
Feminism can only belongs to women, that it's not a man, quote unquote, it's not a man expression, a male expression. um,
Mhm.
Feminism is all about, or femininity is all about your appearance, makeup, fashion, what your body type is. um, so yeah, with that being said, and also like femininity is the opposite of masculinity, so
Mhm.
that may be challenging that misconception that if you are a person, you can't have masculine traits, you can't have both masculine or feminine traits. And sometimes as we raise our children, we can begin to further some of those misconceptions, that can create dampers or chastise how we want our children to really grow up in the freedom of self-expression.
Mhm.
So tell me, I guess, what you have. Are there any other misconceptions that you have, or that you have recognized in society about feminism?
For me, I think of the misconceptions that women can't hold certain positions because they're a woman or they're feminine. They hold these feminine traits, and that only a masculine person can hold this position because it's a masculine job, or it's lifting heavy weights and stuff like that. I seen. I feel like that is a big misconception, and I just want them to know that girls can do the same things. But no, seriously, yeah, just people not believing that women or someone's that feminine can hold higher positions that others can hold.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, because say society too is like, that's a man's job, that's a woman's job, that's a man's job. Even that dialogue right there could, when we talk about how it affects the mental, I meet all these qualifications, and you telling me I can't do that job because I'm a woman, and then
Mm-hmm.
prove myself that that I can do. And I know just for me personally, like especially being in the military, that it was it's when you first look at it, it's like the military is for men, that first again a misconception. But then when you're in there, you say, okay, females can do, just as much or these levels here. And then the challenge that I faced in that with either having to prove myself or even being denied stuff because I was a female and I was passed over and it was given to a male, like didn't meet no qualifications or anything like that. But the fact that they identified that this is a male job. And I know even now, just in the society that we live in now, is it's just different. So you
Mhm.
have a lot of females that portray more what we would say masculine traits, and then you have males that portray what we would consider female traits. And then just again being accepted in society or being shunned in society for how you present yourself. With me growing up, you were called like a tomboy if you wanted to play basketball and run the streets. Like girls don't do that. Girls don't do that.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's like, we got the WNBA. We didn't always have that. So, and again, you looked at first how you looked at it was like only men did that, not women. So to have to work with clients coming in that struggle or are having issues because they might identify or portray a certain characteristic outside of what they're what they were born identify as male, female, like that. So we you often find or run into those struggles.
I think that I definitely, as a mental health professional, see it more when um, families come in or couples come in, and we're trying to figure out how different family structures, maybe routines, um, can help to support their children or their child who is the identified person come into counseling, but recognizing that it takes a household switch up
Mhm.
in order to support a change in a child's or a teen's behavior. And so when you bring the mom in or the dad in or the aunt in or the uncle in who's helping to raise the child, and we talk about, okay, well, who is helping with homework? Who is going to work? Who is doing this? Who is doing that? I kind of see some of those stereotypical, well, I work all, it may be from the mom, well, I work all day and I don't have time to be there for the after school program or to be worrying about talking about feelings, or the dad might say the same thing. And I think that sometimes we have to take a step back and really challenge ourselves. It's not a all the mom's responsibility to do the child rearing and the child caretaking and also go to work. And it's not all the dad's responsibility or the male's responsibility in the household to do the quote unquote heavy lifting or do the 9 to 5 or the graveyard shift. As we grow in society, as we begin to grow as human beings, we're recognizing that gone are the days where the man goes to work and the woman stays home and raises the kids and does different things in the household, and that it's more of a fluid interaction and exchange, and that it's just as much responsibility of the dad to be present for helping with after school programs and homework and talking to their son about um, emotions just as much as it's the mom's responsibility to do the same thing. Or it may be, we're seeing a lot more now where women are the head of the household as far as with jobs and incomes. And that's not to say that there's anything being taken away from our male counterparts, but just looking at it, Black women or women in general make up a lot of the workforce nowadays. And so when you think about what masculine and feminine character traits are expected, it's almost like both parents or both providers, caregivers have to have both. We have to have some sort of feminism, we have to have some sort of masculine traits in order to help with the family structure. And that's okay.
And you do have a lot of households say where it's just a female that's raising a female child and a male, a boy and a girl, and then you have fathers, single fathers that are raising little girls. So if you say that men don't cry, how do you nurture a girl that's crying, do you harden or toughen them up, or do you say girls don't cry? Because I know, like I say again, for my generation, like you see men crying, you see that as weak. Men don't cry, only girls cry. You want to toughen them up on it. So, but if I'm a single dad raising girls, how do I show that soft side or that nurturing side if as a male I don't supposed to have that characteristic?
Hmm.
It makes it very challenging.
I
And
agree
it's
with both of you all.
yeah, it's hard to teach something to our kids that we don't practice ourselves or that we have a hard time practicing ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And so having these open conversations, especially with our kids about, well, what does it mean to really be feminine, or what does it mean to be masculine? It's okay to be both. It's okay to have both of those energies, as we like to say, because we are having to have both of those energies in order to survive in the
Mm-hmm.
world. So,
Yes.
last question, as it pertains to vulnerability, is there strength in being transparent or being vulnerable?
Yes, I believe so. For me, I look at like cultural norms around strength. And then I mean, some cultural norms, that's what that's all they preach is a woman being feminine and a male being masculine. So much so that they tell a male that if you show signs of being feminine, that you all the way feminine, like stuff like that, or you
Almost
can't show fear. Yeah, yeah.
discrediting them as a human being. And it's like, wait a minute, it's
Like, honey,
okay.
I
That
can't
Exactly,
cry.
exactly.
right.
um, yeah. So, and different cultures have different ways that they view um vulnerability. Um, and so me seeing one culture and then not knowing what other cultures how they view the vulnerability in their culture and stuff, um you can't really, you don't know until you probably experience or talk to that individual about what their how their culture is. So yeah, I look at the cultural norms, also gender expectations. Like I was saying, if you're male, some people were taught you can't show fear.
Hmm.
If you show fear, you cry, then you soft. And it's like nowadays it's that a lot of men, I feel like, or a lot of masculine people, they are affected by that because they have to hold in their emotions so much that they don't want nobody to see them hurting or that they're scared. Um, yeah.
And I, oh,
I'm
go ahead.
sorry.
No, no, go
I was
ahead.
gonna say, in fear of judgment or rejection.
Hmm.
I think that was a big one. A lot of people don't like get rejected.
Hmm.
um, so they won't even show that side of them. So yeah, that's what I came up with.
Kind of goes back to the culture, your race, and again, you don't want to be outcasted and stuff. So then too, just again, in our society where you have like the different communities, LGBTQ and all in those different communities that again from a mental health standpoint, when they come in to speak to you because of those things, when they embrace this side more than the other or choose to live this lifestyle, how do we help like bring balance to say that it's okay, again, to have both of these um attributes, what society would consider feminine and masculine. Like how do we help a person balance that
I
Mhm.
without
think
identifying to put them in a category of you either man, female, LGBT, something like that, or place them in a category.
I like what you said there, Tracy, because yes, as human beings and within this society, we feel comfortable. We feel a lot more comfortable when we can put things in boxes. We can put things
Hmm.
in categories. It helps us navigate through life just trying to figure, just to sort things out easier. Um, so it can be helpful, but it can also be hurtful for human beings to categorize things constantly. Um, because then you are limiting the opportunity to color outside the lines, to accept the gray that a lot of human beings have, and that's okay. The same type of experience with feminism or masculinity that I have had growing up is not going to be the same that you had, Tracy, or that you had, Aaliyah, and that's okay. It's a matter of how we take some of those experiences and continue to move forward without hurting ourselves and hurting other people.
Hmm.
And I think that one thing that I do when inviting people into a counseling space is to ask them if they feel safe to even express themselves within their own environment, outside of the four walls that we're talking, or outside of the virtual space that we're talking in, because sometimes it's not safe. Sometimes it's not safe to, based on wherever environment you're growing up in or living in, it may not be safe to express who you truly are. And everyone has to be have their own discernment of how whatever they feel is safe, or providing safety within their household or at school. But the first approach that I take is, all right, well, what does safety feel like for you to express who you truly are? Do you feel like you can express who you truly are? And if so, once I get an understanding of where they feel safe and what expressions they feel safe with, then we go about with, okay, well, this is who you show up as, but this is also another element of who you are. How do we also cultivate that side without feeling like you have to shut down that side? Because it sounds like there is some stress going on with self-expression and identity.
And I just as we were talking, it reminded me of an experience again that I had as a drill sergeant. Um, we were at a one of the training sites, and I believe it was when we were doing the grenades, and it was a safety issue that was about to happen, and I had to like literally grab a soldier and slam him behind the safety wall because of where they threw the grenade at, and it could have been very bad. And then I overheard the soldiers in the corner. They were just talking. One of them said, "Oh, she must be a lesbian," and stuff like that. Just they were saying some
Hmm.
other things, and I had to approach them and tell them, that that's not what I didn't say it the way I'm saying it now. Like I don't identify like that. I use some other choice words, but I won't say it over the air like that. But and I was able to have a conversation with, young soldiers and say, just because I'm a female and I do this and I'm able to do this, the way physically fit I was and how am I able to handle male and female soldiers and handling equipment and things like that. Their concept was like, oh, that's only men can do that. She's strong just like the men. So they automatically put me in this box. I had to explain to them, this is just my choice here, um, of preference. And it wound up being a laughable moment, but it was easy the perception of just because you see a female or a male doing what normally society would say that's a man's role or that's a female role. You can't go and automatically put them in that box.
I
Yeah.
I had an experience like that in high school where I refused to do weightlifting. I I was so skinny. If you
Mm.
talk to my parents, they like that girl. They were scared for me, like I was gonna break on that basketball court. But my sophomore year, I was like refusing to do weightlifting because I was like, I don't want to have big muscles. I don't want to look like a man. I don't want to do all of that. But as I went through weightlifting, I was like, okay, I'm not looking like a man or nothing, but I am getting stronger. So I'm not being pushed around. I'm not getting thrown everywhere on that court. So um that was something I had to come to in my head and be like, okay, you can still be feminine, you can still be a girl even though you are lifting weights, you getting stronger. So I just had to embrace my tone muscles and stuff. Like, I mean, people like tone muscles, abs and stuff, and it's a norm now. Before it was like, oh no, you a man if you got muscles, but now you got women lifting weights, winning championships for
Football league,
bodybuilding. It is
women football
incredible.
leagues. Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so um that was something I struggled with a little bit, and it took me doing it to experience it and coming out on top like, okay, this really helped me. Like
Mhm.
now I'm at the top of my game, can't nobody push me around. So yeah.
It gives a sense of another layer of self-confidence
Hmm.
for our youth that if I think that sometimes if we as adults, because we're all in the age of at least 30, if we growing up, if we had have had those conversations a little differently um, in our youth, that things may have been embraced differently as far as gender norms. But you know, we learn from different things in history, and the goal is to get better. The goal is to embrace, the goal is to support, and the goal is to get better. So thank you so much, Aaliyah.
No, thank you all. Love coming
I'm
on
gonna
the
take that. Yeah,
podcast.
I'm gonna take that compliment, Sasha. You said, yeah, we all like around 30, honey. I got boots that's 30 years old, but I'm gonna take it.
Yes, yes. You know what?
Yeah,
We're all at least 30 plus, okay? So I'm gonna it took a lot of we aged very well. We are aged like
Yes.
wine.
yes, yes, yes.
Yes, definitely.
So thank you guys so much for joining us today. And until next time, take care of yourselves so that we can all take care of each other. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much for listening to Just Me Therapy podcast. If you are seeking further one-on-one diagnoses, interventions, and treatment plans, please consider scheduling an appointment with an individual counselor at Journeys Counseling Center, located in Greensboro, North Carolina. Journeys can be reached at 336-294-1349. The mission of Just Me Therapy podcast is to use authentic conversations to uplift one's mind, body, and soul. The goal of Just Me Therapy is to offer affordable education and insight to individuals who experience financial barriers to accessing individualized behavioral health care services. With that being said, the information, including opinions, advice, and recommendations discussed in this podcast, are intended for individual, informational, and educational purposes only. Such information is not intended to substitute the recommendations of your own licensed therapist or healthcare professional. Although we are licensed behavioral health professionals, we are not your licensed behavioral health professional. As a result, the advice mentioned on this podcast should not replace the recommendations offered by your own qualified health professional.